This is a tree as seen in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's nice, isn't it? But wait, there's more. For you see, there are many ways to interact with this woody sucker. You can climb it for starters, fun, also good for hiding from baddies or getting a good view of where to go next. You can pick apples and gather birds' eggs from its boughs for quick, health-replenishing snacks. Its branches make for simple clubs or torches, and its leaves make for gust-blasting fans, good for blowing stuff. Chop it down and it will drop tasty acorns and highly flammable pine cones, or release scurrying lizards for you to brew into buff-inducing elixirs. You can use the trunk to make a raft, or a bridge. You can chop up the trunk for firewood, or fuse it to your weapon to make a better club, or a log shield. Or, even before you do any of those things, the tree might come alive and try to kill you instead. Yes, see you in Isengard, tree bitch! That's just one tree. One tree in Tears can do all that. By the way, I'm going to refer to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom as just Tears from now on to save time. I have heard some people refer to it as Kingdom, but even that's a bit too long for me, so I'm just going with Tears, okay? And get this right, the trees in Tears are also monuments, as in monuments, to the breadth of gameplay activity available in Tears of the Kingdom, aka Tears. Because all this tree-based shenanigans is emblematic of the purposeful approach to world design. It demonstrates how layered and satisfying the gameplay is. And sure, not everything in Tears is as multifunctional as the tree. A rock is pretty much a rock. You can fuse it to a stick to make a club, or you can throw it. That's about it. You can break something by throwing a rock repeatedly at it, which is handy in a pinch, I guess, maybe. So that's cool. But actually, right, it is cool, because sometimes it's just fun to throw rocks, as every underprivileged kid knows. And this is why Tears is so engrossing, because Hyrule is a playground. The sheer amount of fun and novel ways to interact with this game makes me want to jizz for joy. I was struck by it when, in a single short play session, I very quickly and organically went from running around town chatting with the locals, shopping for groceries, to cooking up a batch of mushroom skewers, and then running out into the wild and having a tear-up with some irate lizards, to then spending 20 minutes trying to build an off-road car to drive up the side of a mountain, to then giving up on the car and climbing up the side of the mountain instead, to running away from the scary hand gang, and then having a chat with a statue, to finally reaching the Skyview Tower on top and blasting up into the air, then soaring swiftly down, catching a falling star and plummeting into a chasm to explore the gloom-filled depths. And this is why Tears is so immersive, because there's just such an amazingly diverse array of gameplay activities, because it's immersion through interaction. It's immersion through exciting action. It's like you're, having an adventure. And I haven't even mentioned the shrine puzzles, or having to get the little seed fellas back to their buddies. You see, Tears of the Kingdom, aka Tears, is what I'd describe as a very good computer game. Because it has one of the most engaging open worlds ever made. You could certainly argue that Tears is one of the best very good computer games of 2023, which was a busy year for very good computer games, many with stunning open worlds. But unlike the other great games of 2023 running on their schmancy modern consoles, Tears has to make do with the aging Switch hardware. So there's no high-fidelity trees or 4K bushes, it doesn't have ultra-realistic water or volumetric fog systems or arousing buzzy jiggle physics. Wait, what? It forgoes all that and instead it does what Nintendo always does, put satisfying gameplay and player engagement first. So this approach is best summed up by legendary Nintendo games designer Gunpei Yokoi, whose many achievements include creating the Game Boy, that little thing, inventing the D-pad, no biggie, I only use one every day, and he also came up with the philosophy lateral thinking with withered technology. He believed games do not necessarily require cutting-edge technology, and that novel and fun gameplay are more important. He said, not to look for the state-of-the-art, but to utilise mature technology, and to find radical new ways of using said technology. Now, he was saying that in 1997, and if that doesn't still completely apply to Tears of the Kingdom, well then I'll eat my own neck off. Because like I said, this is what Nintendo's always been about. Being different, sliding in through the side hatch and taking the industry from behind, and taking audiences by surprise and from behind. Their consoles have always had something weird going on, cartridges, motion controls, or a convenient carry handle. And they almost never try to compete on power or spec. I mean, Tears is a game running on hardware that's nearly 7 years old. Hardware that was even a little outdated when it released. So it can't rely on flashy visuals with smooth anti-aliasing on all the shadows and shiz. And that's not to say that Tears' presentation isn't wonderful. The Studio Ghibli-esque art style is as charming and richly detailed as ever. And the lighting and colour palette is mesmerising. And really, Hyrule is pretty enough to frequently make you stop exploring it so you can admire it for a bit instead. But it is kind of on a different page to the visuals we're seeing on PS5 now. And the funny thing is, lately, PlayStation's messaging has been in contrast to Nintendo's philosophy of utilising old technology. And instead, PlayStation invites you to feel it now.
Feel it now.
And not in a weird way, I don't think, but because they're all about immersion with new technology. 4K, 3D sound, ray tracing, whoever he is, and haptic feedback. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of all those things, especially the adaptive triggers of the DualSense. That's some good squeezing. Yeah, and certainly, immersion through next-gen technology is a way to go for sure. But for me, all that stuff is just delicious bonuses in service to good gameplay. And the Switch doesn't really have any of those next-gen USPs, but it's all for the better because it makes the gameplay the main focus. And holy fart does Tears have good gameplay. Even for a sequel with a familiar map and moveset, it feels novel and unique. I mean, let's look at a tree from Horizon Forbidden West, PlayStation Studios' latest open world. Looks amazing, but it doesn't do dick. Doesn't even come alive. I feel a bit bad for Horizon actually. I don't think it did it any favours releasing alongside Breath of the Wild, because Horizon is its own thing, you know. It seems a bit unfair to now compare it to Tears of the Kingdom as well, but let's do it some more anyway. So I think Tears of the Kingdom, aka Tears, is so immersive because every activity requires your attention. It's like each individual activity is almost a puzzle in its own right. Like with the cooking, for example. So my mum always said, if you want to stay alive in this world, you need to know how to work a frying pan, son. And the same is true in Zelda too. Cooking in Tears is a bit like a recurring side quest. It's something you'll do a lot on your adventure, and it requires consideration. You browse your inventory of gathered ingredients, much like you would scan the contents of your kitchen cupboard, looking for things that might work together in the pot. And while cooking is about experimentation, you can't just throw anything in the pan. You might cancel out the skill-boosting flavours, or worse, end up with something so phallic in appearance it's completely inedible and has to be pixelated out. And the game doesn't teach you how to cook either. You just have to engage with it, figure it out, and try to find the perfect combination of ingredients for maximum sustenance. Meanwhile, over in Horizon, if you want to replenish your health, simply pick some berries, give X a whiz, and then health potions there is. And then there's exploring in Tears. Hyrule is a perfectly arranged landscape of mountains, valleys, rivers, a volcano, grass, etc. And now with added cave systems, sky islands, and a subterranean gloom world. There are countless points of interest, and you'll most likely be compelled to visit them all out of pure intrigue from just having viewed them from afar. Exploration is encouraged, and investigation is always rewarded with discovery. And then take, for example, please, the depths, where exploration has an added wrinkle. And by that I mean, it's dark down there, and scary. And also the enemies are absolute fudge faces, but mainly it's dark down there. And in order to find a safe path through the gloom, you'll need to light your way. Illuminate your path by tossing bright bloom seeds into the void. It's such a simple concept, but it's the perfect intersection of exploration and interaction. And it's really satisfying to see your actions actually change the environment as you literally brighten up the place a bit by chucking little sprouts that glow. The depths are a challenging and foreboding place, and charting your own course across the unknown through courage and determination and by dispelling the darkness feels really rewarding. Meanwhile, in Horizon, you don't need to explore because the map just tells you where to find stuff. And then how you get around in Tears is up to you. There's lots of ways to move Link's ass from A to B, and again, each form of traversal is kind of like its own separate minigame. First, there's simply walking into Hyrule. You just hold up on the stick for that, it's pretty basic. Or you can ride a horse, nature's cars themselves. Give it a kick in the side to make it go fast, or hold ZL to make it dance for you. But before any of that, you have to get into the whole business of actually catching the thing first, hanging on while it tries to buck you over, and then getting it to like you with soothing strokes and maybe an apple treat. And then finally making it your own by registering it at a stable and giving it a hilarious name. Gliding requires you to manage your stamina, important if you want to avoid a nasty tumble back down to earth. Climbing requires you to do the same, but now you've got a couple of new tricks to help you scale sheer cliffs. Sticky elixirs give you the power to grip slippery rocks for climbing in the rain. Thank fudge they added that. And then if there's a handy bit of outcropping rock, the ascend power allows you to bypass the climbing altogether. As does fusing a rocket to your shield. As does rewinding a block of fallen masonry and standing on it. So before you even set about traversing Hyrule in Tears, there's so many things for you to consider and so many different approaches to moving through the world. And that's before we even talk about building vehicles and the almost limitless possible contraptions that can be made to ferry you around. I spent an unreasonable amount of time not saving the kingdom, but instead building crap wagons to ride when it would have just been quicker to walk. But there you go, that's Tears being an immersive mother of a game for you. There isn't anything that compares to Ultrahand in Horizon, or most other games for that matter, so I won't bother. And then we've got the combat. Swords and spears still shatter mad regular, but now instead of an inconvenience, it's an opportunity for fusion. With the fuse power, weapons are now cocktails. Similar to cooking, arming yourself calls for you to be selective and think about what two pointy things would best combine to inflict massive damage. Brawls are now interspersed with fusing new weapons on the fly, where you find yourself running around hoovering up the horns and claws of defeated monsters mid-battle to use against the rest of their monster buddies. I put the kibosh on that moblin using his brother's teeth glued to the end of a stick. Again, it's an added layer of complexity and detail that makes Tears so engaging and rewarding. I think it's a purposeful approach to world building, giving every element, every object, every activity multiple functions. It creates a depth to the world, and it's what sets Tears far apart from its contemporaries. But really, the thing I like most about Tears is one of the simplest, and the biggest attribute to getting fully immersed in the Kingdom of Hyrule, and that's the NPCs. Non-playable Charlies. I think they're the unsung heroes of Tears of the Kingdom, aka Tears. So legend has it, legendary developer of Legend of Zelda Shigeru Miyamoto, when creating the original game, took inspiration from his own childhood adventures, running around the Japanese countryside, discovering lakes and caves. Hearing that reminded me of my own adventures as a kid. Not in Japan though, no, it was on a council estate in southeast England. Young me with my little gang of lovable misfits, running around playing Dungeons and Dragons. I am going somewhere with this, by the way. And when you're a child playing in that way, you get lost in your own imagination, and you project your imagination onto the world. The only thing that shatters the fantasy, that breaks the immersion, is the adults that don't play along. You wish they'd give you quests and clues. You wish everyone was in on the game, but instead they tell you off for laying siege to their car and slaying all their roses. But the NPCs in Tears are the adults that play along. They're like the cheerleaders of the world. They comment on the weather and excitedly tell you where to find cool bugs and mushrooms. They shepherd you towards places of interest and impart useful information. They're like the champions of your adventure. Some of them seem like they're on their own adventures. Others have got stuck while they're on their own adventures and need your help. Some of them have got their shit together and teamed up to fight the monsters. By talking about the world around you, the world you can see and explore, they add flavour and character. And not by spouting mooey about its politics or history in a patent attempt to add depth to it after the fact, but by encouraging you to find the depth in it yourself. And also they don't do it with detailed facial animations or sophisticated AI. They do it all with a button press and a simple block of text, and maybe the odd vocalised exclamation. I don't know why more games don't have interesting NPCs. And you might well say, they already do, asshole, and you might be right. But in my experience, there are more NPCs that stand around with dead eyes, awkwardly performing menial tasks or loitering vacantly, as opposed to adding any material value to the experience of the player. A lot of NPCs, while nicely rendered, just feel like vaguely animated props that grunt when you approach. They feel like extras as opposed to the paid actors in Tears, and it's probably best you don't inspect them too closely. But you want to get lost in a game's world, that's the goal. And I think the best way to do that is with meaningful interactions, like talking to an NPC and having them tell you about tumbleweed or something. That to me is way more important than visuals. Simple interactions is why I love the Zelda series in the first place. Playing Link to the Past for the very first time and being blown away by being able to cut the grass and smack a chicken. Those simple interactions, those are what make Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom so immersive. Like throwing rocks. Or sitting on a chair. Wait, hang on. Oh, or petting the dogs? Oh, motherfucker.